Welcome to Bloom with Chelsea Rose. I have here today my friend and fellow creator, Wendy McColm. Welcome.
Yeah. Hi.
She's here with her cat,
Yes, I am.
Kitty.
Kitty.
And how are you doing today, Wendy?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Glad to talk to you. I feel good to talk to you, a person.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, definitely.
yeah, and then of course in these times with the movement going on for Black Lives Matter, and then coming straight out of quarantine, it's just kind of like, yeah, there's a lot of processing going on.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like a different person every day.
I like that. That's good.
Change, lots of change happening. And I feel like I'm just trying to keep up with the change internally as well. So I definitely want to talk about all of that stuff. But before we get into it, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? What do you do?
Well, that speaking to that too, it's like, what do I do, especially after quarantine and now with the Black Lives Matter? It's kind of like, what do I do? Um, I would say at least my life's purpose is to feel. I truly, truly just at least keep that as like a beacon, just like okay, that's the undercurrent, but then what do I do with that? Um, hopefully continue to create films or works of arts and collaborations. I think, I've been a filmmaker for over 10 years. And over that time, obviously, like we're saying, we change as people. So I get into questions just lately in the last year or so, like, is this something I'll continue? What will it look like? I I do have doubts and stuff too, and what is next. I'm at a point in my life where I'm like, what is next? So there's a few projects I'm starting now to see kind of like, is filmmaking what I'll continue to do? So that's like a interesting answer, but it's kind of the truth.
That's a great answer. And I feel like I'm the same place too. Like I definitely do want to continue doing music and all the things that I've been doing, but with this huge shift, like everything that I'm working on, all my projects, all my art need to shift with it.
Yeah.
Kind of like, okay, what is my purpose, or what that I'm creating can serve this greater purpose?
Yeah.
It's an interesting place to be. But I did want to ask you, just to rewind a little bit, how did you get into filmmaking? Like, what was your upbringing like, and what brought you to films?
My upbringing. Well, what was my upbringing like? I mean, I kind of raised myself as a child, so like a lone wolf, if that makes sense. And I think just right away when you are, see, this is the thing too. I after a while, I started to realize I was in just full survival mode. But when I start talking about it like that, now I'm like conscious if I'm in survival mode, so then I don't create. So I don't even know if that makes sense, but I'll backtrack. I just started creating and like being in school plays just like literally at 5 or 6. And then I did every talent show, everything. And then I think in 6th grade, I started to do like 3 acts and then also co-directing in the talent shows. And then I went into high school and had an amazing drama teacher. Her name is also Wendelin Atwell. And she pushed me, and I think she knew my home life wasn't like the best. But yeah, I just went into doing 3 plays a year, captain of the improv team, and co-directing was in that. And then I just moved to LA like right when I was like 17, 18, and started doing extra work.
Where were you living before LA?
Yeah, I was just living in Long Beach, so it's not like I was like, I took a plane, like I just I had to save up for a car because I didn't have one. And I left home and lived on like, gosh, I got really lucky. My middle school best friend, who I hadn't even talked to anymore, her mom always told me that she would be there for me. So I called her because I couldn't live at home anymore. It was not okay. So she let me stay on the couch, like could save up for a car. And I actually worked the door of a strip club to get money and move to LA. So I did that for 6 months. And then I just did extra work and just like actually had a pretty substantial acting career, which was amazing. And then, but I met my first cinematographer who I actually could have a conversation with on a student film. And I convinced him to like be my cinematographer. And we made a lot of short films together. And that's how I like was like, oh, I've been a director my whole life. Oh, okay.
That's so cool. And I want to just like talk a little bit about when I first met you. I don't know if you remember, and my impression of you. And
oh my God, these are always so interesting.
I just like, I just want to firstly say too, I just love like your personality, and I feel like you just share so much of yourself so openly with the world through your art and on social media, and you're so vulnerable, and I really admire that, and I've always like felt really connected with that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I remember the first time that I met you was at a party. I think it was at Jack and Benny's house.
Oh,
And, like everyone was playing music. Someone was playing the piano, and you were like sitting on the bench, singing along, singing these Beatles songs, and just like so happy and jolly, just singing out loud. And I was like, who is this girl? She's so just like, and I think part of that also is like my shadow. Like I've always wanted to be that person. And I think I've kind of unlearned that as a child to kind of quiet myself and kind of be like, hey. So I think that kind of resonated with me. And then I started following you, started seeing your, some of the films that you were posting. And then I remember one night I was high and I went on your I went on your website and I just watched like all of your films on your website, and I was so blown away. They were so amazing and different and interesting and weird, but they all had this style to them. I feel that you have a really unique style.
thanks. I
So yeah.
appreciate hearing that, especially now when I'm like, well, who am I?
I know it's easy to get lost in that question and feel lost, but I think it's also important to look back and recognize what you have done and what you have built, because like we've done a lot as artists. You know, we have to give ourselves credit, and yeah, we might be changing our path and you know, doing something different now, but everything we did before is what brought us to where we are,
Yes.
where we need to go.
Yeah. And I appreciate you telling me that. That's so beautiful. And yeah, like there's just things that have been happening lately where I'm like, maybe I should just stay to myself. Maybe I should just be more quiet. Like the world really doesn't want you to be loud. Like, and when you are loud, you bring a lot of risk at being susceptible to kind of people's shadows. Or yeah, it's like every day is kind of like, to have a personality like that every day is kind of like, oh God, am I gonna get in a fight? Like it's just crazy. It's insane. It makes you want to be quiet.
Don't be quiet. Don't ever dull your shine. You're
Ah!
so talented. And so I brought Wendy on to help me out with the music video that I released recently.
Which came out beautiful. You edited it.
Thank you. And yeah, you did such a great job directing it. I knew I wanted to have you on the project because I had somewhat an idea of what I wanted to do, and I wanted to be kind of surreal and weird. And I knew that you would take it to the next level. And you really did. Like even in helping me with the art direction and just the details of the scene. And you know, I like one thing I remember is like, so the music video is supposed to be like me in my house and I'm like depressed. So we're like setting up the house for that. And I just remember you looking at my fridge and there's all these photos of my friends and family. And you're like, this looks like the fridge of a happy person. We got to clear these photos off, you know, just like the little details like that. So it was awesome working with you, and I'm super happy with how it came out.
We made two, right?
Yeah, and I actually have another version that I'm still editing. I
Oh,
kind
isn't that
of
insane though? Like so just to point out, Chelsea wanted to make 2 music videos with the little budget and the little time we had, and we did it. But one English version and then one, what was the Portuguese version? And like, that's badass.
Yeah. Yeah, can be pretty ambitious with my projects, but you know
Gotta
do
be.
too.
You
And so,
gotta be.
yeah. That brings me to, I wanted to ask you about, I believe it's your first like feature film, Birds Without Feathers.
Mhm.
I saw that in the theater when it came out, and it was so cool. This was before you did my music video. I didn't know you too well, but I was really interested and went to see your film,
Thank you.
and it was very interesting. Like I remember after just being like, wow, like feeling a little disturbed, a little inspired, a little. But I remember in the Q&A after, you mentioned that the film had saved your life, and I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah, it did. I
How,
mean,
how did it save your life, and was this the beginning of like your healing journey? Because you've talked a lot about healing. How did that play out?
yeah. And it's hard to even talk about it now but it's also really interesting. And I think the universe it's like been a few years since then, but yet I've had 1 or 2 people included, and then now you bring it up in the quarantine, this like almost probably to weirdly remind me.
Interesting.
This is like, what? Like now I have to talk about it again. When I talk about it, I feel like I can do anything. But when I'm here now, well, now that it's over, which it's not, because I still have repercussions from what spawned it. Yeah, Birds Without Feathers saved my life because I was in a pretty heavily abusive relationship with another filmmaker, who definitely now in retrospect you see had no faith in himself, and and I had no clue what real love was because, as we talked about earlier, I wasn't really raised by a family, aka love or compassion. I've never heard those words before. I just kind of happened to be a human that just knew what she wanted to do in life, and I really got by on that. Like I just knew what I wanted to do, so I was always like pretty happy. Um, Even though I had like no such thing as a real hug in my life, like I just didn't know it existed. So I could have lived like that forever, honestly. It was pretty great. But after this experience with this person verbally abusing me, and then sometimes physically, um, I lost my soul for sure. Like started becoming him. So, I was getting very big opportunities to act, and I had sabotaged all of it just because I had no idea how toxic he was, and then I was inherently becoming. So I sabotaged my whole like career essentially, and then I broke up with him, and then I had nothing in a sense, and then I was like, well, I had always made films, so I'll make this film tomorrow. Like I just like it was insane. I mean, insane and beautiful, but like I began to have tunnel vision. I call it survival mode now, but at the same time, do I need to keep calling it survival mode? Can I just call it a higher power?
Yeah.
I think that's what the question has been coming up, is now when I say survival mode, I stop myself because I don't want to live in survival mode. I want to live in love. But now I'm like, wasn't that love though? So this is what I'm going to question after this interview. But I went into, I'll say survival mode, but you know what? I'm going to say higher power. And I had no doubts and I had no question of self, just like I used to before the abusive situation. And I just was like, I'm gonna make this movie tomorrow. Called up a friend or two, and then we just started like 2 days later. I didn't consider needing money. I've made most of my stuff with like no money. Now in retrospect, as I'm making my second film, I'm realizing it's an absolute phenomenon how we made that film. I mean, we made the feature film, the shooting process, it was like 27 days and $9,000, which,
Wow.
one, that was like the most amazing artistic freedom I've ever had. And then also the fact that anybody listened to me and like wanted to, and then also did it for so little money. And like, you know, I just tried to make my second feature film recently, and we have to finish making it after the quarantine, but definitely not the same experience, and definitely like showed me like, how did we make the other one? Like, these people want so much money, and like we're not even getting half as much time to film. Like, it was really eye-opening, and that's something else I have to grapple with. But yeah, it saved my life in the sense that if I didn't have made that movie, if I didn't make the movie, um, I don't know what would have happened to me. You know, I don't, and I don't know what would have happened to me, because after I stopped making the movie, before I edited it, I literally couldn't get out of bed for like 4 months. And I had to, you know, luckily eventually got a therapist that helped me change my life and understand that I had never knew the word compassion. I had never known what a lot of things were that you should learn as a child. And then therefore you just get into these situations, you don't know you're being abused, which is a blessing and a curse. I potentially can be a better person, but more so being a human is hard. And no, I thought, you know, whatever. But being a human is hard. And I've always just felt more safety in creating. I mean, I can speak about now coming out of that healing in my next feature, but like, to live this life without creating, it's hard. So the movie did save my life in that aspect. It showed me that. I went on tour with the film, and I met extremely loving people that seemed to see my truth, because the film is not filtered. It's dark comedy, so it's like a little filtered, but people saw my truth, and they realized that I think they realized I needed love before I even knew that.
Wow. Yeah, I think after hearing your story and then having seen the film, I can see that in the film. I feel like a little bit of your story, and just like what I can imagine would be the confusion of living in that is definitely there in the film. And I think there is something so powerful about, yeah, I think sometimes as artists, when we're going through something, we're guided to channel that into the art. And sometimes we don't even realize that we're doing it, or that it's happening. It's just like this urge. And like you said, a higher power, I like to think of it as like a higher guidance. And when you first said you were like, I'm gonna make this film tomorrow, that actually gave me chills, like physical chills. I was like, wow, because it's that like no hesitation, you know.
I
It's
mean,
just
the
like
minute you
what
hesitate,
you need to do.
yes, it's what you said.
Powerful.
Say that again. It's what you need to do.
Yeah, it's what you need to do. I just think that's so powerful, because some on the other side of that, as an artist, I think sometimes I can like think about it too much and be like, oh, I want to do this thing, but I have to plan this and blah, you know, I get too caught up in the planning and trying to make it like perfect instead of just like jumping in and just doing it.
There's a balance for sure as an artist. I mean, and I think because I made that, and then I went into this, I'll say, wretched experience of trying to make a second film, I've been tainted a little bit on that thinking thing too much. It's like, so I guess the only way to do that is like, yeah, just go experiment. Go do something that takes you a day, and do something that takes you a lot of planning, and see what you like best as an artist. There's no right way to do anything. And yeah, if your doubts are getting in the way, you know, that's definitely not a good thing, because you need to believe deep-heartedly that whatever your experience is, it is someone else's experience, and therefore your truth will affect them. And that's your job as an artist, in my opinion. And I'll say this in the spiritual realm, like I pulled the Ten of Pentacles yesterday, right? And the Ten of Pentacles in the books kind of gave me this. It said, you have all these riches, right? And I see the riches as your creative ideas, your inner wealth, which is what you're getting as like, oh, you should do this, right? And if you play it out, you will continue to shine in the riches, right? In your inner wealth. But if you don't play it out and you question it, there's dark points behind the color, the shiny ones in the picture. If you don't fulfill it, if you don't go with your inner riches, they become dark energy. And you might get in arguments with people. You might do things you regret, all because you do not trust your inner wealth and put it forth to shine. So like, that is kind of very true for me. I've been getting a lot of ideas to speak to the Black Lives Matter movement. And, there's a lot of hesitance because you are, I'm white. I'd like to think of myself as an ever learning ally. But yeah, I'm getting a lot of ideas, a lot of downloads. And I'm like, I don't think I should do them. Like, why am I getting all these? I don't want the downloads, like.
What do you think that resistance is? Is that just like the fear? Because yeah.
It's fear.
Yeah.
Everything. I can tell you everything I'm thinking. You're not right. Who do you think you are? You can't do that. Everyone's going to shame you. Everyone's going to, and then you definitely don't want to get into a shame war with someone because that sucks daily. I mean, I was getting into shame wars with people because, I was protesting too loud. There was a lot of white women telling me I was too loud. I mean, if you, like I said, if you are yourself, you do risk a lot of ridicule, no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what has held so many of us back from speaking out is just the fear of being uncomfortable, of saying the wrong thing, of being vulnerable, of being shamed. And like, the more I educate myself and learn about anti-racism, like the more I'm learning, like that's part of the work is being wrong, is making mistakes, but still showing up and making yourself vulnerable to make mistakes and to learn from them and to keep changing and evolving.
Exactly. And if we don't, and what better skill to learn now more than ever is humility. Humility is it's like we've all maybe had it, but we've all been held up to impossible standards. And it's like, of course the government and all this bullshit is ruling us. Like, we're too afraid to mess up. So nobody ever speaks out, or like, no one ever speaks out. And it's like, of course we're all kind of like minions and robots because no one is being their true self. So humility is so important. Understanding that good vibes only is bullshit. Like, I can't harp enough how much that is the most toxic mentality of life. It's toxic. People have emotions and they should all be heard, and we should hopefully all learn how to mess up gracefully. I am also still learning that because I still have a lot of shame and doubt in my ideas, since all that stuff has happened. If I was more sure in myself, I think messing up would be less harsh. But I think when we're not sure, messing up can like seriously set you back for weeks. Like you're like, I messed up again. And it's just like, when in reality, if people just like were cool with being human, it'd be like, okay, damn, yeah, cool. What can I learn now? Okay, we're all gonna move forward. All right, yeah, okay.
Yeah. I recently did this workshop for white allies, and one of the things we talked about was making space for discomfort. It was Malia Wright who was running the workshop, who I'll definitely have to get on this podcast.
Yes.
But yeah, she was talking about creating culture, like making space for discomfort and creating culture around that. And at first, I didn't quite understand what she meant. I asked in the chat box, I was like, what do you mean? Can you elaborate on what you mean by creating culture around that? And I feel like that plays into what you're saying. If we create a culture where it's okay to mess up and to make mistakes, as long as you're learning and changing from them, if we allow that space for ourselves and for each other, like that's what we need to move forward in this, I think, so that we're not so afraid to mess up, because it is scary, you know. But I've realized myself, like, how that's held me back in the past from speaking out, is being afraid of messing up, and that's not okay.
It's not okay to have that pressure, and it's just like, what are people protecting themselves from? You know, the ones that get mad at you for messing up are like, who's actually getting mad at you? Like, that's another thing. It's mostly you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because like maybe once in a while I have a friend be like, and you're canceled. And I'm like, all right, got hurt really bad. But I also have grown enough to realize like I'm not perfect, and I try to make it a resolve and be like, yes, you know, maybe at first you argue a little bit like, no, I didn't do that. But fucking give people time, man. They gotta process that they did something wrong, and like go, oh, okay. But like we're in this quick culture where it's like, you messed up, F you, you're a bad person, and bye. And it's like, wow, no one had time to grow or learn there. Even if you didn't want to be friends anymore, you can like give it time to have the person process. But that's another story. But it's like, yeah, other than those few people that happens to me sometimes, because I am a vocal person, I'm learning at a rapid rate, and therefore you have a more rapid chance to be wrong. You know, that's just what you're gonna have to take on. Or you can kind of live a life where you're just silent watching TV, which I cannot do. But I will say it's mostly my voice. Yeah, it's mostly my voice saying, you could be wrong. Yeah. And that stops you. That freaking sucks.
That's so true, that it's mainly our inner voice that's like judging us. And
where did it come from?
Yeah, right? Oh my gosh, that's
where did it come from? So I'm like, I don't remember anyone's, well, I do, my dad said some horrible things to me. Yeah, it has to come from, because I don't think my dad ever said you were wrong for doing like things I did, if that makes sense. And this is very vulnerable, but I'm comfortable saying it in light of somebody actually feeling maybe less alone. My dad did shame me growing up, and he would say that basically no one would like me unless I changed. Like, he told me that phrase a lot. And I think growing up, I realized like I always said the phrase like, I can change, I can be better. Like, and like, well, I think inherently it makes you think that when somebody tells you, hey, maybe you messed up, like it just adds to it, when actually you can be like, you're right, I did. I don't know.
Wow, that just got me thinking, like, it's so interesting because, yeah, how do you find that balance? I think this is something I'm working on, is finding that balance between, yes, I can change, and yes, I am the way I'm supposed to be, and I am whole just the way that I am.
Amazing. That's exactly the debate that I had the other day with my friend who canceled me. Like, and that feels so much shame to say I got canceled, you know, but like
cancel culture.
I mean, I would love that, or at least make cancel culture just a little more drawn out. Just spend a little more time and make it a little less, like, just quick, like maybe 2 days.
I heard on another podcast that like they were talking about that and just saying like, maybe we should not be so focused on canceling people, because that can be, yeah, it doesn't allow room for change. Maybe, yeah, let's cancel the systems. But yeah, that's a whole.
Like, no, I think people cancel because they're learning boundaries and they don't know how to keep them. So they have a fight or flight response, and that can cause a lot of damage.
I think a lot of that too can come from like that inner shame too, though. Like you're feeling that inner shame, and so you want to like quickly
Yes.
cancel other people.
Because we're not allowed to be wrong.
Yeah.
So cancel it out of the way. And then we'll never learn. And then we can keep going.
Yeah. I've been
Sounds
thinking
so wrong.
that in my meditations, in trying to just really get grounded in myself and who I am. And this is something I feel like I already was working on the past few months, but grounding myself in who I am internally in my soul, so that I can not be so that I can put myself out there, and when I do make mistakes, not be so easily shaken, like not feel like my whole self has been canceled, or to still be able to accept myself and love myself and say, oh yeah, maybe you were wrong in that, but cool, like I'm able to change. But also deep down I know that I'm a soul who wants what's best, who wants love for everyone.
Yeah, having a deep down, I mean, what you're saying is completely true. You should, to not be shaken, having meditations or having something that's your core belief or your beacon, sometimes I call it, or your purpose, and helps you kind of not shake. I mean, we're gonna mess up though. Like we're gonna mess up. That's all there is. And if the person you're talking to that calls you on messing up doesn't have compassion or does it very quick, what they're saying could be true, but if they're saying it so quick, there is another element that they're not being honest about. And if you let that shake you, I think, that's just unfair. They could be true, take the true parts, but if it's like a complete cancel or a complete no compassion.
But again, yeah, we need to be so grounded in ourselves that if that does happen, we're like, okay, I'm not going to silence myself. Like I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to keep changing and keep speaking out. And yeah, maybe I need to shift a little bit and learn. But I think that's really important right now. And what needed of us is to find that strength to keep speaking out and keep taking action. And I wanted to ask you about the protests, because you've been going to a lot of protests, right? How has it been for you? What have your experiences been like there?
It's been interesting. I mean, I would say, it's interesting. I think like right out the gate, I started real hard because, in this culture of Instagram, everything needs to be now. Speaking into the canceling, it's like, so we kind of went at it really hard. I was going every day with my friend, and then it started to weigh on you, like you have a lot of white women shaming you and telling you how to speak, telling you that you're not allowed to speak, telling you that you need to be quiet or like let, our Black brothers and sisters speak, which we are. We're just, when there's a chant, you also do the chant. I think there's a hard balance because everyone wants to help who's there, but then we have so much unlearning to do as people. And then also, on the side, sexism exists still in this world. So women see other loud women and they unfortunately need to control that because it's a mirror. And they don't realize that they can also be loud allies as well. It's been interesting. Most of the love that I've received has come from the Black community. Very much loving each other and you when you've shown up. And I think it's sad to me that the people who aren't going to protest don't see that side, and they don't get to experience that love, because it is only love in the Black communities. I was told growing up that don't go to that side of town, it's bad, don't do this, it's dangerous. And it's like, it just really is bullshit. And it's still was in my head. I was like, I can't go to Compton to protest. It's dangerous there. And I'm like, what? Well, my dad said that, but I'm just going to go. F this. So I went, and yeah, we're all dancing and, you know, just doing all the love things together. And it's just like, the media is so false, and the people that aren't going to the protest don't get to live that. And I hope that it integrates into them, that our Black brothers and sisters want us to speak. They want us to speak out on our platforms. Obviously, we're going to mess up. You know, we're learning how to undo a lot. But that's the message that's given there. And then you see things on social media, like I've even seen like just white people shaming other white people. And it's just like, what? We need all voices on deck. Like, there was a woman who told me I wasn't helping when I was at the protest. And I was standing next to this Black woman who I made friends with, her name's Shelly. And she goes, what happened to freedom of speech? And then she was also like, she defended me, and she said, she's fighting for my son. And like, we have to remember that. But there are a lot of, I don't know what's up with white people shaming other white people. You know, and sometimes I get resentful and I try to call people out for not posting, and I can do that nicer. Like, that's something I'm owning. Like, I'm learning how to work through, because I'm going through a lot of pain being at the protest every day. I just don't understand the fear. It just comes back to it, the fear of speaking out. White people have this fear that they're generating, and it just stops people from standing up, and therefore makes us as a collective less powerful.
Yeah. I've definitely asked myself, like, the question of where I fit in the movement, and especially on social media, like, how can I make room for Black voices or amplify Black voices, but then also use my own voice simultaneously? And like, what do I say? How can I support? How can I be supportive without, yeah, essentially shaming other white people and being like, what are you doing? You're not speaking out. But you know what I mean? I don't know. I always try to, like, I think actions, I want to say actions speak louder than words, but words are important too, you know? So I think it's just,
it's a hard balance right now.
Yeah. I think it's just, we need to just remember that, like, it's messy. It's messy and it's not perfect, but like, that can't stop us.
It can't, and you can't let it stop you. It took me a few days to process something like this, and, you know, I'm going to continue. I'm going to make now a video project to do my best to amplify Black voices, but also go with my belief system that what I'm seeing at the protests is we need all voices on deck. We need all colors, all races there to lift and support the weight, to hold the weight. You know, I'm getting really upset, and I need to stop getting upset, but it's hard. Even my Angela even said, if you're not angry, then you're a stone, or you're too sick to be angry. And it's just like, that really made me feel, watching any artists like Maya Angelou, or any speeches from activists, or any poets from just the 60s on, if you need inspiration to be louder, that's where it is. And conversations with Jane Elliott, I don't know if you've seen a lot of her stuff. So, you know, I'm seeing like guys in our community, white men, still posting pictures of them at the beach, or like, and I can't say like what they're doing behind the scenes, you know, like they're donating, whatever. But, you know, I'm going to stop being upset, but like, two things to this. It's like, you have over 20,000 people following you. You're a leader in our community. And yet, you're not normalizing this movement. You're not integrating posting about Black artists. You're not integrating like anything on your social media platform, which, I hate to sound petty, but it's not petty. Instagram's like TV for us, you know. And if you're seeing your influencers posting about something that brings light to a movement. And my Black friends, I have also Black niece and nephew. You're kind of in my eyes, and I don't want to be resentful, but I kind of thought about this yesterday. If you're a white male, and of course white women too, but white men, I've seen this from a lot. If you're not lifting the weight, you're essentially saying you're totally okay with all the white women holding the weight for you, and you're totally okay with possibly allowing racism into our communities because you're not standing tall to it. And these people, are they going to be back as leaders in our community? Are we just going to let them back in because they're a cool guy? Like, these are things that kind of keep me up at night, which I shouldn't put all my energy to. But, you know, I can't just be the only one calling them out, and calling people out takes a lot of energy. So it's like, what are we, is it the word complicit? What are we condoning? What are we allowing in our communities to go on? And where is the line? Where do you stop calling people out? Where do you stop caring? And at protests, the most repeated thing that our Black brothers and sisters say is, call out your white friends. So it leaves you in like this, what do I do?
Yeah, it's really tricky because, like you said, you don't want to be the person that's like shaming other white people, but maybe there's a way we can do it that's more encouraging.
Yeah, I think there's a more encouraging way out. You have to do a sandwich.
Yes.
Which I hate that, but I'm like, I'll be a better person. It's like, hey, you have a lot of followers, you're really admired, you have a strong voice. You know, do you think like at this time you could start integrating Black Lives Matter information onto your platform, or start creating with Black artists or giving light to them? Unfortunately, a lot of white men have never been held accountable. So usually their responses are very lengthy and very much kind of like turning the tables so they don't have to feel the weight.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, there's only so much you can do. I can't be the only one calling people out. It's kind of like asking our community to step up and be like, hey, you know, why aren't their friends calling them out? It's like really weird. So I don't.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have the answers, but I love that you brought that up because that's got me thinking now.
Oh, good. Yeah, because I'm like, ah.
Yeah, it's definitely something like I'm going to keep thinking about is how can I like encourage people to join in the movement.
Because it's like to say like, no one's saying you're not doing other things.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the point. The point is Instagram is like TV.
Yeah, like, I mean, what if we started something where we're like, here's a thing that we're posting to, we all want to share this message or show that we stand behind it. Here's a way that we're doing it. If you would like, you know, make it sort of an event. If you would like to take part in this, here's how you do it, you know, just kind of, yeah, I don't know, just something I'm thinking.
Oh, that's good. It's like kind of like manipulative, but it's good.
Because here's the thing, I think also, and I've actually been thinking about this, like I need to start, you know, like a little group, maybe a Facebook group or like a little hub with my white and my white presenting friends where we can actually share resources and actions. Like, hey, I'm making this phone call today, send it to the group. Suddenly 6 people do it. Because I think a lot of us are very much, I mean, you've been to a lot of the protests, so I'm sure you're feeling a lot of the community, but sometimes I feel like I'm kind of like alone in.
Oh, it's easy to feel alone.
I'm not alone, but you know, to be sort of isolated in the actions that I'm taking, I think, again, we need to build a community and like a culture around it. And
I agree.
Like you said, it needs to be normalized.
I agree. And you know what? I'll be honest, like even my first thought of that is like social anxiety. I'm like, but that's why these things don't happen. But it's like, I'm like, is it gonna work out? Will these be okay with me feeling a certain way? I don't know. But if you did create a safe group like that and it did work, I think that's an awesome idea for sure. And I think you should do that. Like, I have somebody who started a group like that recently with us, but it seems like it's like two white men leading in. They are very charged, and I think it's great. It's just that it's just more like an army thing. It's like, yeah, it's like I don't feel, I feel like cool, I'm gonna go, but like I also feel very alone.
Yeah, but I think it's important also to like find your voice in the movement, as a woman, as a white or white presenting woman, as an artist. Like that's what I've been asking is like, as an artist, like what is my voice in this movement and how can I use, like you said, my natural wealth and talents and my privilege to further the movement and to inspire and encourage other people to join too. And yeah, I don't have the answers, but it's something.
I think things that have come up for me is like, one, I'm making a movement project right now, and it took a lot of convincing to myself, but I'm basically going to film my friend today, and he's graciously like, he's cool with reading scripts that I've written or doing the first interview as like the trial, like, is this something that's appropriate for me to make as a white person? And I just think you just have to, hopefully you have allies and other Black friends that you can safely speak to and just be like, hey, is this out of line? Is this helpful? And it's like, yeah, and your friends are your friends, so it's not like you're putting weight on them. And there's that. And then also just like interview style, like, I may be a white person you're interviewing, but there's also white people who are confused on what they can do and stuff. So that's helpful. Having Black allies or Black friends or inspiring Black artists on, for your interviews is a wonderful way to start and use your voice. I think another thing that, I've had a few days to process this. I think another thing I'm going to try to do is, I've always wanted to speak out about just emotions and, a better way of living for humanity, just like as yourself, kind of like what we're talking about today. But then also realizing I can have guests as well who are, other races, and I don't have to do it alone. And I think that phrase, stronger together, it's super impactful. It's super impactful to be next to a person visually or lifting each other or just conversating together. It's super impactful. And other things you can do, I don't know, just follow your soul, because I also say this, processing is progressing. Showing that humility in your processing, whether you are crying one day or up the next, having the strength to show your process, I think allows other people to process.
Yeah, totally. And I just want to say again, like, I love the way in which you show up on social media and you like show your processing, I feel like. And
Right.
yeah, I mean, it really is inspiring to me, and it makes me want to do that as well. And I think like, yeah, when you open up and show your vulnerability, you allow other people to do that. And it's so important. And it brings me to one thing that I wanted to ask you about, was a post that you made recently. It was on your birthday, which happy late birthday, by the way. I hope you had a good one. And I just thought it was, so you posted on your birthday. I can't remember what the whole thing said, but you were talking about the movement and just reflecting on yourself. And you wrote out the phrase, I am the oppressor, or I have been the oppressor. And I was like, damn, girl. To post that on your birthday too, like, I just want to say I felt that was really brave. And I know that, like, maybe a Black or brown person might be like, that's not brave, that's just the truth,
It is.
but which is true. But I will say it does take courage, and I think that's hard for us people with white skin to say that, to say it out loud, like, I am the oppressor, I have been the oppressor by benefiting from these systems and by doing nothing to change them in my life. And by not looking in myself and seeing the ways in which racism is ingrained in what I've been taught and what I know, I am the oppressor. And it's just so, it's hard to say that, but it's really powerful. And so I want to thank you for saying that. And now I'm saying it out loud, and it's
I hope, yeah, I encourage you to write it as well. I encourage any person inspired or hearing this or reading that to write it. It feels wrong when you write it. I was like, is this too much? I was like, I literally was questioning if I should write it. But I think I knew and know deep down that it's the truth.
yeah.
So if I can hold that for change, then I will. I don't have anything to lose. And inspiring speech that a 13-year-old, Black girl said at one of the protests was, we don't have anything to lose but our chains. And that's another reason why going to protests is important. You get to hear these such inspiring, beautiful leaders speak. And yeah, I'll say, even though I wrote that post, like I did go through and I think this is another reason why people don't stand up, is because it is a weight to stand up. Like, I think I go through 2 or 3 hours of convincing myself that it was okay to say that. And that's work.
I feel you so much on that. And I think it's so cool that we're talking about this. And for anyone who's listening, I hope that they feel inspired, because I think that a lot of people don't realize that it is hard to say those things on social media. It's hard. It gives me so much anxiety. But again, we have to get over that, and we have to allow space for that within ourselves and with each other. So I think it's important to do it. Keep doing it. Keep going. I love what you're doing.
Thank you. And I think another thing to say, I mean, I don't know. I think we covered it. I just I hope people know that the weight that you hold from writing a truth, I am the oppressor. It's literally a fraction of the weight that our friends, our Black brothers and sisters, my niece and nephew eventually will hold in their lifetime. And to be brave enough to do that, and it's not even brave, to have the audacity to even understand that weight is yours to hold.
Yes.
It's yours to hold. So own it. Stop deflecting holding the weight because you're used to never holding a weight, because your culture, our white culture, has been totally okay with never holding anyone accountable for anything real, except for shaming you to have emotions. And that's another thing of deflecting a weight, because no one wants to hold the weight of holding someone's bad feelings. It's just if you can't wake up to that is your weight to hold, then you are also still being the oppressor. It's fucked up. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but it's messed up. It's messed up. And these are things that keep me awake at night. I'm just it's messed up that people don't feel that that's their responsibility. It is your responsibility to feel. What did I feel? 3 hours of wondering if it was okay to say I was the oppressor. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, that's nothing compared to a lifetime of being oppressed. Experiences we can't even imagine. But yeah, that's really powerful. And I love that you said that. And so I hope that we all can remember to hold that weight.
And I thank you for even saying something about it too, because you just don't know, and you go through a lot of these experiences in your growth not knowing, because not all your friends you're surrounded by are gonna be on the same wavelength as you. You might be processing racism faster than they are, so if you were to say that right here and they just started, they might go, oh, you can't say that, and then you don't. So it's sometimes you do have to do things alone and trust yourself. And I pray, though, hopefully you do have an encouraging friend group or family member that you can go to after you do something like that, and be encouraged to do more. If you don't, then yeah, hold the weight. And even now I'm like, oh, you're wrong. I'm even thinking that right now. But no, I think it's important that people hear that, even though my own ego and self doesn't want to hear it, because I don't want to succeed as a person. So, but it's true. It's true. It's true. Yeah.
Wow. So powerful. I'm so glad that we had this conversation.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for just chatting with me. And like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answers either. I really don't, but I do know that all things that are good take time. That's what I do know. So it's going to take time.
Yeah, it's going to take time. And as long as we're trying and we're speaking out and taking action and holding that weight, it's what's needed. And let's uplift each other and keep the conversations going. And
yeah, and then find out, I think the most uplifting thing at this point, if you need an uplift, which I did like a few days ago, and I'm happy to find it now, is like, yeah, what will you do as you to integrate this into your life? So you hopefully went through the grieving process. I definitely went through a lot of emotions in the last 4 weeks, and holding the weight. And I'll continue to hold weight, and I'll continue to step up when I can, and hold weight, even though it's hard. But yeah, integrating what you as an artist, you as a person can do in your life. I think that can give you the most stamina to move forward versus going back to what people are calling normal, which.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to remember, like, this is just in line with everything we were talking about. Like, as you ask yourself that question, what can I do? Don't wait on it. Don't wait for like the right answer or the perfect answer.
Yeah.
Just act, like it's urgent. Lives are being lost. Black lives are being lost.
Ooh, yes.
So
True.
it's,
True.
and yeah, but also, yeah, allow the time, the space for the processing and for your inner work. It's inner work and it's outer work.
There's a lot of undoing. And again, like, most people aren't saying this online, but yeah, another protester did say that this is about undoing for all races. So just know that undoing includes, like you're saying, the inner work,
Mm-hmm.
and you're part of it. So we just gotta be okay with it.
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely a first step. So there's lots of steps, but I'm happy today to be going to film my friend and potentially start integrating that way. And then, I don't know what's next. I would like to do more. I don't know what that is yet, but
yeah. Well, I look forward to seeing whatever you come up with. And if you ever need someone to bounce ideas off of or talk to, I'm definitely.
Well, you're going to be in it.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited to hear about it.
Because, yeah, I do believe all races do add to this. And I'm just going to trust what I've gathered at protests to, like, share that message.
Amazing. Oh my gosh.
Cat fight. Yeah, Kitty heard it too. He went. He was like, "Where are they?"
Oh my gosh. Well, it's just about to wrap up. Let me close this window.
Guys, what's up? Yeah, you don't get them.
Oh my god.
Are they all right?
What's on out there?
Even Kitty was like, what's happening? Oh. He went running to look for them.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I'm just trying to, can you still hear it?
Not too much.
Okay. Just trying to get
a clean
outro going here. All right. Well, thank you so much, Wendy. And where can people find you and follow you online?
Just Wendy McColm, MCCOLM. It's usually at anywhere. And yeah, wendyfilms.com. But yeah, follow me if you want. Get inspired. Share anything you want to share. I'm super open to always learning more. So yeah, thanks Chelsea for having this conversation.
Thank you for talking with me too. I feel good after this, and let's keep going. Let's keep the conversation going.
Yes, amazing.
Yeah. All right. Well, have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.